Hi guys, Jessica and Kevin here from the Healing Hands duo. Hi.
Hi.
We are absolutely enthralled and so excited because our channel literally went from, back in December, went from like 400 subscribers all the way up to over 1,300 subscribers. So we want to say thank you so much for all of that. However, it has been getting very overwhelming. There has been tons of comments that have been coming through, personal messages, people asking us to call them just to talk about various different issues or things that we've discussed on our channel. So I think what we've decided to do, just so that we could be fair to everyone, because it was getting to the point where I was spending at least 3 to 4 hours responding back to comments or private emails. And by all means, please don't stop commenting and don't stop sending those emails. It's just that I won't be able to get around to them as quickly when I've got like 30 or 40 of them coming through in a day. So the thing, what we really wanted to do, and this was actually Kevin's idea, was that we were gonna take the most popular videos and the videos that had the most questions on them, and do a follow-up Q&A video. So this is actually what this video is going to be about. And the video that we're actually discussing, if you haven't seen it, I will post it up here, is the one that I talked about, how to heal leaky gut and ulcerative colitis. I was originally diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. This was even before my Lyme diagnosis. And then later on, a couple of years later, while I was getting my Lyme diagnosis, I also found out that my ulcerative colitis looked more like Crohn's disease, so they actually relabeled it as Crohn's colitis. And the reason why I have Kevin in on this video too is because when we started this out, Kevin, of course, has autoimmune conditions too. He struggled with psoriasis and leaky gut as well. And we noticed that once I started doing this diet to help with my Crohn's disease, his skin started to clear up quite quickly, actually, almost in 3 months after having dealt with this for almost like, how long would you say?
Well, in the beginning it was not just the skin, it was heart palpitations.
Yes, oh my gosh, yes.
Well, when I finally figured it out, it was wheat and gluten was the big ones. It'd give me heart palpitations to the point where I'd actually pass out.
Yeah, I remember that.
I did that at work a couple times. So that's how I knew. I mean, I didn't know at the time, but when I actually figured out, you know, finally I got a gluten test. And then I figured that out, and then they told me just to stay away from that, see what happens.
Yeah,
and
it was actually.
And then of course that's when Jessie was going through all of her stuff, and she decided to take that another step further.
And throw everything out in our house, and I was like, I'm gonna throw everything out in the house that can contain. Actually, to be honest, we didn't even go gluten-free. I think a lot of people have asked me a lot of questions on whether is rice okay, or is this kind of bread okay, or that. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie, the SCD diet and the body ecology diet and the what's the other, the GAPS diet, they don't recommend any grains, not that I'm aware of.
The body ecology, they have the you know, the quinoa and the millet and the
so
those
some
are really the only three, and they're not really grains, they're technically seeds, but
so, and I've mentioned that in the first video too. So when you are asking me if I ate rice, no, I did not eat rice. I didn't eat any grains whatsoever for 2 years. And when I say I didn't touch it, I literally did not touch it, because at that point my Crohn's was so bad. I had what they called in the beginning pan ulcerative colitis, which meant it was throughout the entire colon, and I was so there was so much inflammation that I couldn't even go to the bathroom at points, and when I did, there was a lot of I was having a lot of blood, and so it really scared the crap out of me, I'm not gonna lie. So when I started reading these books and they said no grains, I was like, okay, they're gone. They said no sugar, I was like, they're gone. The only thing you were allowed was some raw honey, or even some regular honey, and I tried to limit that as well, because they recommend hardly any sugars in the beginning. I ixnayed all fruit as well, because that had too much sugar and too much fiber in the beginning. The only thing I would have was maybe some apples, and what I would do is I would take the skins off, because that was too much fiber, and I would take the skins off and I would cut those apples up, and I would basically bake them in the oven, and I would put some cinnamon on them just to give me a little bit of sweetness, because my food for so long was very bland, and a lot of people ask me how I did it. And I think when the will is there to change your life, you'll find a way to do it, regardless of what kind of sacrifices you have to make. And for me,
Well, especially when you can't eat food.
Yeah, and I can't eat food. I couldn't eat food. So even
big one.
Yeah, so if I even tried to eat the stuff that some people are saying that they have a problem with, I would be on the toilet 20 times a day, and I'd be bleeding, and I'd be in agonizing pain. I'd be rolling around on the floor. So for me, I'd almost rather starve than eat any of that stuff. So
it's just got to be simple foods, and that's what these two books that we just said, that's what they talk about. It's really just simple foods. The GAPS diet, they talk about just eating bone broth for like the first week if it's really severe. That's all you can have.
Just bone broth. So, and I lived off of bone broth for a good amount of time. Not my first flare, but my my second one that was really bad. I lived off of bone broth for like months. Bone broth.
Chicken too. We used to boil chickens for hours and hours.
Yeah. These are all questions in here too. So you know what? Maybe we should get to that because we have so many questions to cover, and if I have to make 2 videos on this, maybe I will. I don't know. We'll take it as it is.
So the first question we got on here was, what about your social life? After 2 years not eating out, it's just not something you can do, especially if you're single. So this is a very good question.
The social life thing, again, unless your entire social life revolves around food, and I understand that a lot of the time it does. And in that instance, I'm not gonna lie, I had to avoid going out to restaurants for a very long time, because even when I started eating like this almost 11 years ago now, I think, or 10 years, about 10 years ago now, there was no such thing as gluten-free, and there was you can say to the waiter, oh, does that have dairy, and they might know what that means. But when I used to say to people, oh, does that have gluten, or does that have any type of grain, they would be like, oh, what's that? So I did have to avoid restaurants, and if I did go to restaurants, and don't be ashamed to do this, honestly, it'll be easier for you to do this now, because it's what I do when I go out. I would just tell people that I have an allergy to stuff, whether I'm going to have an anaphylactic shock right there and then, that's none of their business. I would just say to them, I'm extremely allergic to gluten or grains, and if I went out and I was getting like, I was going to a restaurant where I would like a steakhouse or something, I would just say, can you just cook me up a plain steak with nothing on it, just maybe some garlic and salt, and that's pretty much it, and just vegetables on the side with nothing on it. If you could handle a little bit of butter, because I don't recommend dairy products, if you can handle a little bit of butter, then you could go ahead and do that if that's okay for you. But I just did that for, I don't know, like 2 years, and I still do it too. I mean, I'm not as strict anymore because I've been able to advance to a more of a longevity diet now. What we actually do now is kind of like an Epi Paleo RX diet, and we do talk about that in a video that's up here, and Kevin and I have to finish that video.
There's a lot of variables into it.
Yeah, and that's not as simple either, because that diet takes into account your physical environment and a lot of different things. Okay, sorry, I'm getting off topic.
Staying on the question here, it was very hard. Actually, the first restaurant, at least in this area here, that came out with, or at least recognized gluten and had something to cater to their menu was Swiss Chalet.
Yeah, and well, we're in Canada, so I don't know if you're in the States. I don't think
it's one of the first restaurants to do that. So we went there regularly. We just had chicken and some like steamed vegetables, and that was it. Just straight up.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest, I even had to take off the chicken skins back then, because the chicken skins were just even too much for me to digest either. Again, this is after me having been on the intro diet, on the SCD diet, for a good couple. I was on the intro diet for a much prolonged period of time. I think in the book, it's been so many years, but in the book I think it recommends like a couple of weeks being on that. I think I did that for actually a couple of months because I couldn't digest anything, and I posted pictures about of how skinny I actually got down to. I was down to 88 pounds, so I was scared. So for me, social life and all that took a back burner, but then again, I was with somebody too, so I understand.
Well, if you're struggling that much, it's kind of the last thing you're worried about is socializing. It's just going through any of these diseases on your own. It's not easy. I can imagine it's just not an easy thing to do. Not having anybody there with you to help you go through some of the stuff. That's tough.
Right.
That's just tough all around, and there's no real easy way around that one. Well, let's go on. Let's move on to another question here. So this one's about nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds totally rip my guts apart, even if they're soaked, sprouted, or pureed.
Okay.
So
and I want to answer that because I did say in the video that you could eat nuts and seeds. However, if you read the books, it does say that you have to wait before incorporating some of these things. So like nuts and seeds was one of them that they really kind of recommended that you went really slow, and it was more like nut flours, and you didn't, for me personally, I didn't start adding the nuts and seed flours and stuff like that and some of the coconut products until almost 6 months into the diet, because they were so much on my I needed to get to a place where I healed the gut to a certain extent where then I could add some more of these things in. That's why I strongly recommend you all do an elimination diet first and an intro diet first, because the thing is, it's hard for me to tell you what to eat because it depends on the severity of your gut issues currently. Like the gut can be extremely damaged like mine was, or it could be somewhere in between, or just the beginning stages. It could be that you're having problems with your esophagus or your stomach, or it could be your small intestine or your large intestine, and that will also bring up different variables on how you're able to digest food. And then again, it could also be because of hydrochloric acid and enzymes and all these things. So yes, she says there, but you're helping a lot of people. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that I'm helping people. And I 100% agree with you that in the beginning, nuts and seeds were not good for me either. I did have to wait like 6 months or something like that before I could incorporate them into my diet.
Yeah, proceed with caution on that one for sure.
Yes, absolutely. You're 100% right.
So the next one, can you put some light on aloe vera and then how it, does it benefit any leaky gut in any way?
I'll answer that one because aloe vera is actually not allowed on the SCD diet. I will link to a website down below. I'm pretty sure I linked to it in my first video, where it gives you all the what they call legals and illegals of the SCD diet. So it goes through every single ingredient you can possibly think of, and it tells you if you're allowed to eat it or not allowed to eat it. Again, I will either post that down here or down below. So I'll probably try and post it on the screen though. Aloe vera is not allowed. I didn't do aloe vera for the first 2 years. However, once I started developing ulcers in my actual stomach, because when I was taking 5-ASA, that was my anti-inflammatory for my Crohn's disease, because I was on that for a while. My battery's gonna die, so please excuse me if I have to do a switch out. But in the beginning, I started getting a lot of issues with my stomach. I started getting a lot of gastritis. I had erosive esophagitis because of those pills. I was having just tons of issues. I did take a product called Glutagenics for a short period of time, which was glutamine, aloe vera. It was powderized glutamine, aloe vera, and deglycerized licorice. To be honest, I actually think it was the deglycerized licorice that actually helped my gut and my small intestine more so than the other two products that were in there. However, I've seen people comment down below on this video that glutamine had major reactions for them and that it did not do well. So I don't recommend glutamine. I know a lot of the health gurus out there love glutamine. It's supplements, and I don't really particularly recommend them. I think you should be getting that from the bone broth. And something else on this video while I have this on my mind right now. One of our viewers was so kind to correct me on something. I had said that in bone broth it was mineral dense, and I was incorrect in saying that. She actually did point me to 2 articles and studies that say that there's hardly any minerals in that. So please don't depend on bone broth for your minerals. Get that in another source, but it is still full of amino acids and the glutamine and all that, and the collagens, if you do it properly, that is.
Okay, next question. How long did it take for total healing?
Okay. I'll let Kevin answer, because the thing is Kevin had psoriasis. So if anybody has skin ailments and stuff, like when did you start noticing a difference? Even with your passing out, like again, because the doctor suggested that he might be have celiac disease. So
well, I think it just depends on what you mean by total healing. I think we need to kind of look at that and define that. But if you're looking at from a point of view from symptomatic relief, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. At least for me, when I was struggling with psoriasis, when it was at my worst, I don't know, once we started changing our diet, once I started, getting that under control, I didn't need the medication anymore, and then it just kind of went away. I didn't really notice it anymore. It just wasn't bothering me anymore, so I didn't use the cream as much, and then... Because
Kevin was applying topical steroids to his skin.
And then I got to the point where I didn't need it at all, and then I got to the point where one day I noticed, and I was like, oh, it's not even really there anymore, So, I mean, it happened over a long period of time, but
I think for
a couple of years anyway, at least a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, for total healing, I would agree with that. I would say that it took me about 2 years, and I know that's going to sound daunting to some people. I mean, it took me a while. It took a while, and it was very discouraging at first, I'm not going to lie, and I think it was like 6 months in is when I started to notice that I was feeling better. And that's kind of when I think I decided I wanted to get off of conventional medication, because I felt like it was actually making me worse. And I felt like once I started taking my anti-inflammatories and all that. I couldn't find one that would really stop the diarrhea. If anything, I felt like it was making it worse and making me bleed even more. So that's when I decided I wanted to get off of that, and I started to do a bunch of different things. I didn't just do diet. I was doing intravenous vitamin C, and I was doing light therapy and Rife and ozone and tons of different things that we were doing. So, but I would say healing on a diet, all of the healing diets are recommended in most cases to do them for 2 years. And I would say that that's probably when you're going to start to see complete healing of maybe leaky gut or something along those lines.
So can we drink raw milk? Raw milk kefir?
Yes. So kefir is a probiotic drink. It's when you ferment milk and you make kefir.
It's very high in probiotics.
And it's high in probiotics. Yeah, and it is, Kevin was saying to me before, it is recommended in the body ecology diet.
Yeah, that's a staple. Well, it's used, there's 2 ways to do it. You could use milk, or you could use like raw coconut meat from a young coconut and make a kefir out of that too. So there's 2 different ways to do it. And
is it out of that or coconut water?
No, that's a different one. That's another type.
We did
coconut
that.
Water kefir. That's a little bit different, but we're talking about like the kefir meat, or the like milk kefir.
Yeah, and we did that. I did that, and I'm gonna tell you. Okay, I had somebody that didn't like the fact that I had said to people that you shouldn't drink milk. Okay, there's a couple of reasons why I don't think in the Western world people should be drinking too much milk. Number one, because it's highly processed, and what we have in the stores is not raw milk, and it is not easy. I have never personally seen it here in Canada. I think it is actually illegal to sell raw milk here. It has to be processed because they're scared of things like, I think it was something called
Europe you can get raw milk, I think, quite easily.
I think you can get raw milk in Europe and India and other places in the world. If you can get your hands onto something that has a high amount of colostrum, and something that's raw, and it is actually fully intact, and it has all of its fats and all of its good bacteria in it, then by all means that might be something that you could try. I personally have no experience with it because we couldn't get raw milk here, and actually when we tried to get raw milk, it was like we were performing some type of a crime. We had to, like,
if you're selling raw milk here, it's like selling drugs.
Yeah, like we had to meet somebody at their house, and they had to have a farmer come in and bring in, like, undercover raw milk, and it was just a big pain in the butt for us. So I decided
people are going to get sick because it is raw, it's not pasteurized, there's a lot of bacteria, there's a lot of stuff in there, and they're thinking, people will get sick. So that's why,
And this is the thing though, once you filter out the milk, in the Western world, what we do is when we're filtering it, I believe what they're doing is it's high heat temperature processing. So you're not only killing all the good bacteria that is in the milk that is actually supposed to be good for you, then they put it through a filtration process. Most people in this country are drinking 2%, which they've removed almost all the fat, which is another reason why milk is good for you. So basically in the end, what you're left with is sugar water. So do I recommend people drink that stuff in Canada when half of the diets I've read said to stay away from sugar? No, I don't, because
it's what the cows go through too. I mean, cows aren't supposed to eat corn; they need to eat grass, and they're filled full of hormones, and get more milk production out of it. So it's more poisonous than animals, really. Unless it's pure. When the animal's eating grass, if it's out in the middle of the field where it gets a little bit of sunshine,
absolutely.
If you can get it in its raw form, which I think you can get it in Europe. I know a lot of people say it's quite easy to find over there.
The other thing is if you're not even trying to find like organic milks organic milk where this animal is going through torture in these long houses. I don't know if that's what they use for the chickens or the cows or whatever. We're not vegans, but at the same time, I believe in, eating meats and stuff like that that are ethically produced meats. But the thing is these animals are being put through so much torture, and they're given them these antibiotics, and I've seen all these videos where these cows have mastitis of the udders, where it's basically their udders are overfilled and they're all full of pus and all that stuff. And then what they do is they take that milk, and the milk is primarily full of like yellow pus and blood, and it sounds gross, but it's all these things. And then
getting back to the original question, if you could find yourself some pure kind of raw milk from a good quality source, if that's available to you wherever you are, and making a kefir out of it, if you know how to, is that beneficial for any of these types of digestive illnesses?
It could
possibly.
be.
I've heard a lot of good results from it. Believe it or not. Same thing with coconut. If you're doing it with coconut, both of them have been shown to show some positive results.
And
but
what we actually
it's individualized, I think, in this one. It's individualized. Not everybody's going to respond the same.
And the reason why I'm saying this is because I did include a study on this video where they did find that a lot of adults after lose the digestive enzymes to actually digest milk after weaning from mother's milk. And if you were breastfed by your mother, you're going to even have more issues trying to digest this type of protein, because that's where you would have been introduced to it in the first place. And unfortunately, formula is not the same as breast milk. I know I might get flack for this, but it is not, because you actually get introduced to a lot of bifidum, you get introduced to a lot of colostrum in mother's milk, and these are the things that start to build the immune system in a child in the first place, and that actually is what seals an infant's gut, because all babies are born with leaky gut until a mother breastfeeds and then she seals the gut. So again, if you should get tested and see if you have those digestive enzymes to even digest milk, because if you don't, then there's no sense in even trying it, because it'll just damage the gut further.
But the good thing about raw milk is it has all this stuff in it to help digest itself. If that makes any sense. It's full of enzymes and it's full of living stuff. Again, so that's one thing it's got going for it too. So
we are, again, we're different because we're different cultures, and I've never been able to digest milk. He has.
I could probably tolerate it better than Jesse could, but like I said, that's what I'm saying. It's individualized. If you want to give it a shot, and you can find a good source. It's all in the source. I think that's the most important thing here.
Again, they say that goat's milk is a lot more similar to human mother's milk as opposed to cow's milk. Cow's milk is apparently not anything like human milk. So
if you can drink goat's milk, man, go for it. But
then that's probably why you shouldn't drink milk. But anyway, we'll get on to the next question.
Did you do any kind of fasting?
Not when when your stomach isn't at its worst condition. No, and I'll tell you why. We do fasting now, and I think it's very important because I think it gets a lot of things going. Leptin and all that stuff. But not if you're
struggling with ulcerative colitis.
But not if you're struggling with like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or anything like that, because the thing is you don't want your body spending a ton of time on going into starvation mode and then eating a large meal and then having to spend all that energy on digestion. Instead, what I would suggest is eating small meals throughout the day, like 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day, until you can get your digestion to start working properly again. Once that happens, then you might try something which is called intermittent fasting, which usually means not going for a long period of time without food. But it means just maybe skipping one of your meals throughout the day, like whether it be like, a lot of people tend to do breakfast, but I've heard now that you should probably do protein for early morning, and then maybe skip like lunch and then do a larger dinner or something. But I wouldn't even consider that until you've been doing an intro diet and a healing diet for some time.
Next question. Are you familiar with the blood type diet?
Yes. Do you want to answer?
Yeah, the blood type diet is, we experimented with that. Not so much when especially when you were really sick. We didn't experiment with that at all. This came later once we kind of got things under control. Right. Try and figure out, okay, now that we can actually eat some food, what are the best foods to now, what should we be eating? And we did look through this. I looked at it, the blood type diet, and
we actually have a video. We have a video, and I'll post to it up here. This is the one that I've mentioned before. It'll be posted.
Put the link up there.
Yeah, it'll be posted up there, and whatever we know about the blood eating right for your blood type is up there, and it'll go through all the diets that we've read. So we're not just speaking from the experience of just these 3 diets. Yeah. We've read like 13 or 14.
Yeah. I've had some positive results with it.
Yes.
With some of the foods that they recommend.
I actually really agree with it.
Agrees with me. So I think there's some truth there to that.
And the thing is I'm O and Kevin's A. Again, we don't know positive, negative. We don't know. Yeah. However, that will also affect it perhaps. But we noticed that he can do better now with more grains and like a vegan, vegetarian-based diet, whereas I tend to do better with meats and proteins and stuff like that. So it's really weird, but it does really affect what you'll eat. And being different, it's hard, but we tend to do one meal. Yeah, compromise, exactly.
Hi there, new to your channel and starting the GAPS diet. It's been almost a week and I feel like crap, which I'm sure that's normal. I was diagnosed with LPR, and even if I wanted to enjoy the foods I normally did, I can't because my throat feels like it would close on me.
Okay.
So with that being said, I know my gut is super messed up from taking antibiotics that completely wiped out all my good bacteria. So now I need to seal my gut. My question to you is, did you take hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes? Or did you do everything all natural?
Okay.
It's a loaded one.
Yeah, and actually I've been talking to this viewer back and forth. I won't like really say people's names. If you guys want to know everybody's names, I guess I should be posting these on the screen, but I don't know how to do that yet. So I'm gonna say, and I think I've said to her before, is that I wouldn't worry too much about supplements in the beginning. I mean, supplements are going to be beneficial for you once you can get your gut to at least start digesting some food again. So at this point, what I would say is, I did mention in the video stuff about HCl and digestive enzymes. I think there's going to be a time and a place for them after you've done the intro diet. And so when you've done the diet for like just a couple of weeks, like that's not enough time to know whether this is working for you or not. And I think the problem with some of the supplements is I couldn't actually digest tablets, and I couldn't digest gel caps of any sort. So if you are going to try anything like that, which unfortunately digestive enzymes and HCl usually comes in tablets, and digestive enzymes usually comes in a cap, you probably won't be able to digest those in the beginning anyways. Again, we need to like kind of calm the storm, put out the fire, get your gut to a place where it's a little bit relaxed, as well as the stomach, as well as the throat, before you start throwing all those supplements at it, because you probably won't be able to digest them. And in that sense, since you have leaky gut, you're not absorbing them properly anyways. So I would just get yourself to a place where you can calm that. In that case, if you need to take things, I would maybe, again, this is something I didn't use while I had this issue, but you might want to try things that are very soothing to the throat and the stomach. You might want to try things like bentonite clay, and I will link to a company down below. That could help to coat the throat and the stomach. Again, lipospheric vitamin C, that can also help. It's an antioxidant. It's absorbed through the throat.
Well, one other thing that we did
liquid
too
zeolites.
is that if you're starting all this and you start to ferment your own foods, like fermented vegetables, for example, these things act like digestive enzymes.
Right.
So if you eat these foods with your main meal, it'll help digest the meal.
Right.
Because you're getting all these probiotics as well. So the fermented foods was a big one.
Yeah, they
I used to
are in
ferment
a
vegetables
sense.
like crazy.
Yeah.
And we used to eat them with every meal. We just have a little cup of it, and this really helped digest all the other food.
Listen to what he said. He said he had a cup. He had a little cup.
Just a little one. Just
a little cup
just
about
enough for like a mouthful.
This much. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Kevin didn't have Crohn's. I could not even handle a cup. Me, I would take a spoon and have half a teaspoon with my meal. And that was enough to give me what I needed for that meal, because when your gut's so damaged, you will not be able to handle, that's why I said a lot of the ferments are going to really probably hurt for a while. A lot of the probiotics are going to hurt for a while. That's one thing I do suggest you maybe find right now is a good probiotic that you can start putting into your diet now too. And like I said, some of those things that will calm the storm in the throat, because it is LPR in the throat and then stomach, like the bentonite clays or liquid zeolites, maybe that could be maybe a lot to handle too. But definitely the fermented foods are important to incorporate right in the beginning. But start very, very slow, like very slow.
The body ecology protocol, she recommends that too. Your first time trying that, just like it literally is just a little bit of, just so you can put it in your mouth and that's it.
And it was literally that for me. Even when we started fermenting coconut kefir water, I started doing a coconut kefir water, I literally had to take like less than an ounce, like a tiny little shot glass, because I was just, my gut was so far
you work your way up, you build your own tolerance. Soon enough, you were able to eat like a cup.
Yeah, now I can eat like a cup of fermented foods and I'm fine with it, and take probiotics.
Okay, next question. Any tips on how to get probiotics when you have an allergy to pretty much all of them?
Okay, I think we covered that. Okay, I'm going to say two things here, because I've already responded.
Fermented foods.
Yeah, I've already responded to this. Number one, we just mentioned it, is fermented foods.
Yeah. I
would really strongly recommend that you start with cabbage, fermenting cabbage, because I found that cabbage has a lot of healing benefits for the throat, the stomach, all of the intestines really. There's a lot of healing benefits in cabbage alone, just raw in itself, but it's going to be really hard to digest on a bad stomach. I mean, when you have damaged intestines. So I would ferment that and do like a fermented sauerkraut, and again, half a teaspoon with each of your meals if you can handle that. Even maybe just in the beginning, you just do half a teaspoon for the first couple of weeks. Yeah, great way to get the probiotics. Another one is I think I've already responded to this comment on the channel, but I used a company by the name of GI Pro Health, and that line was entirely produced for people with irritable bowel diseases. IBS, and those types of issues. So they have probiotics that are very, very gentle on the gut. And again, I will post their website right here so that you guys can go and check them out. I started with 3 billion, I believe, in the beginning, and I think I was even breaking up those capsules into 2, and I was just pouring some of that on some cooler
Yeah, they're
food.
weaker, right?
They're much weaker, and it's just acidophilus. You need to start with like 1 strain. You need to start working your way up to taking multi-strain probiotics.
Hi, I really found this helpful. I'm implementing the GAPS and body ecology diet due to my gastritis, GERD, and leaky gut. I started the bone broth and fermented foods. However, I want to include lots of veggies. When I did bone broth and ate meat only, I became constipated. When I eat fruits and veggies, mostly juicing them, I have diarrhea. I'm trying to heal my gut, but I can't seem to find a balance. So the question is, did you eat vegetables? If so, did you juice them, or how did you cook them?
Okay.
And did you implement the 80% alkaline diet in the beginning?
Yes, great question. The alkaline diet, I think it's very important to get your body to an alkaline state. However, I was really horrible at doing that. Kevin was much better at doing that, and the way that we try to regulate that was by actually buying pH strips that you can get, pH urine strips, and just testing your alkalinity all the time.
For me, I juice my vegetables. That's the way I got them. I juiced every day.
Yeah,
every
and
day.
that was okay with him because he, again, didn't suffer with the kind of situation I suffered with, but I could not eat any raw vegetables in the beginning, and the reason for that was
we had to cook the vegetables.
I had to really overcook my vegetables. I did eat them, however, but I did overcook like anything, especially the fibrous stuff like the broccoli and stuff like that. I really did overcook them to the point where they were almost mush, and that was the only way I could actually digest them without affecting my gut. When it comes to the meat, I did get constipated as well when I ate too much red meat. However, I did not have that issue when I ate things like fish and chicken without the skin. So that's why I kind of recommended those 2 things, and I didn't mention a lot of meat in my video because I noticed in the beginning I really tried to eat a lot of red meat because I've heard about all the benefits of the paleo diet and carnivore diets and all that stuff, but it made me really constipated just like you. So that's what I had to do.
And did we implement the 80% alkaline diet in the beginning? No, we didn't.
No, in all honesty, no. I think it would be great if you could, maybe, but we didn't do that. I worked with whatever I could eat at the time, and so that's what I basically went off of.
I've seen some people with like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, they can eat some raw vegetables. Seems to work for them. Some people can't. So again, it's interesting how that is. You know, it's individualized on that one for sure.
I think it just depends on the severity of the illness too. Like at some point, I could eat raw vegetables now, and I do all the time. But I mean,
steamed broccoli, that was a big one. We had that a lot.
What are the little things?
Brussels sprouts, asparagus,
cabbage,
they were more boiled
carrots,
or steamed.
Yeah, all these things I had to like really kind of overcook them. Celery was really tough on me. I couldn't. Somebody actually recommended on one of the comments that I try celery juice, and somebody else said that was horrible for them. I was the same. Like if I put celery into my chicken soup, if it was not like really overcooked, it would really bother me. I don't know why celery in particular, but it would really bother me.